I'd like to introduce Barbara from Germany, and Barbara has multiple sclerosis. Welcome, Barbara.
Hi, Linda.
Hello. So when would you... Sorry, Simon will have to cut that bit out. That's a good start, isn't it? When were you diagnosed, Barbara?
When was I diagnosed? I was diagnosed in 2007.
Okay, and how old were you?
At the time, I was 45. The diagnosis came exactly 2 days after I turned 45.
Oh, right. Not a very nice birthday present.
No, not really, no.
And what were your symptoms at that time?
At the time, I had very few symptoms. I was living in Australia at the time, and I'd been out on a bushwalk with a group, and I'd been walking for, I don't know, 3/4 of an hour or so. My legs sort of started to give, really. I couldn't carry on walking. It was very, very strange, and I just had to stop the walk. Luckily, we were not sort of out in the bush. We were just walking along the beach, and there was a road running parallel to where we were walking. So somebody came with me, and we just walked very slowly sort of onto the road and waited there, sitting on a bench, and then eventually somebody else from the group came with a car. So it was very lucky, the circumstances, because I could have been out with that group somewhere, really sort of in the bush, and it would have been very, very difficult to get me back. But after, I'd been sitting there with this person for a while, and I started to feel fine again. And then I had a lift back into town, and then took the bus back to where I was living. And I remember getting off the bus, feeling perfectly fine and walking home without any problems. But obviously this kind of incident sort of shook me up a bit. And I went to see my doctor, my GP, and told her about it, and she said, well, I really don't know what this could be, but I'm going to treat it seriously, and I'm going to refer you to a neurologist. And that's what she did. I went to see the neurologist, and described what had happened to her, and she said, well, I'm going to send you for an MRI, which she did, and I had the MRI. And then she sort of, when she had the films back, she said, well, this is what I thought you had when, you first came, but obviously I wanted to make sure that I was right before I said anything to you. And you've got multiple sclerosis. And at the time, she said it was relapsing, remitting. But now, last summer, I had a major episode, and after I'd been in hospital and had the steroids, I went into a clinic for a sort of rehabilitation place for about 5 weeks, and the doctors there said it was secondary progressive.
Right.
And I now have symptoms all the time. Until, when was it, 2009, I had very few symptoms. It was just prolonged walking. Then, I had problems, and I couldn't run. That I noticed that even before I had this sort of incident on the walk, that I couldn't run. I tried to run for the bus, and I couldn't do it. So,
and what
anyway,
other symptoms did you have at that time?
At that time, that was really it. It was not being able to run, and also that was the other thing, that when I was going up or down stairs, I always had to hold on to a handrail. That was the other thing.
Right. What about when your doctor said that you were secondary progressive? What were the symptoms then?
Oh, this was last year, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I sort of, now when I go out, I have to really have a stick most of the time because my balance has been affected really quite badly, and I can't walk. I mean, it depends, it's sort of different from day to day. Some days are better than others, and I'm sure everybody who has MS experiences that. Some days I find it very difficult to to walk more than, say, 10 minutes at a time. And I also feel very stiff after I've been sitting down for a while. Say I've been sitting at a desk for quite a while working, and then I have to get up, say, to go to the toilet. I do find it kind of, I'm really stiff, and it takes me a little while to get going. But then I'm okay. That is just the sort of initial stiffness.
What about other symptoms like fatigue and bowel and bladder and sleep?
I don't very luckily don't suffer from fatigue.
Right.
That is, I've never really, touch wood, experienced that so far. Obviously, I'm tired at the end of the day, but because I do things all day, and I mean, I don't think I'm unusually tired.
Yeah.
So that's not an issue. My balance really isn't very good. And what was the other thing?
Your bowels and bladder.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. I don't have problems there.
What about cognitive problems?
I don't have cognitive problems either. I mean, in this clinic, they did do tests, cognitive tests, and I was fine. I mean, it was well within the range of a, healthy person, and so there's no problem there either.
Good.
And I had, funnily enough, I had an appointment with my neurologist on Monday, and he did this kind of these tests where, for example, he has a tuning fork and he puts it at different places, on the arm and on the ankle and stuff. And I remember when he did it last time, I could hardly feel anything in my ankle. And on Monday, I could kind of feel a little bit, and he sort of said afterwards, well, there is certainly an improvement there, that you sort of seem to be able to feel the vibrations a little bit better. And I said, well, how come? And he said, because I go and have a monthly vitamin B12 injection.
Yeah.
There, and he said, well, it is the vitamin B. I mean, that's what he said. That sort of, there is an improvement there. He also tested my hands, when you have to tune your wrists and stuff like that. And he said, well, your hands are really very good. I mean, in the summer when I had this major episode, my left hand was sort of paralyzed, and I couldn't, my index finger was sort of permanently kind of bent. It was sort of like crooked. It was horrible, and I couldn't sort of eat with that hand. And that is all gone now. Luckily, that is all gone back to normal. So my hands are fine.
So which
is a great relief, obviously.
Yes. So when did you discover LDN?
LDN. I think because when I was, this is, I was diagnosed in 2007, and this neurologist who diagnosed me wanted to put me on to some beta interferon right away, and I sort of said, no, I don't, I want to explore some other things. And then I found the Best Bet diet, and I spoke to Andrew a few times as well, and then I researched that, and then I found the MS Resource Center, the website, I'm talking about, now, and I went on the website, and I think I read about LDN there.
Right.
And I mentioned it to my GP at the time, and she'd heard of LDN. She was originally from Yugoslavia, or Serbia, former Yugoslavia. And she said, yes, I've used it in Yugoslavia to treat alcoholics. And I didn't realize it could be, used as a treatment for MS. And she was quite supportive.
Right.
And she said, if you want to get it done, I'll support you in that. And then I mentioned it to my neurologist. I changed neurologists then because this woman I'd originally seen retired for health reasons, and I went to see another neurologist, and I asked him what he thought of LDN, or whether, and he kind of said no, he didn't think there was anything to be gained by that. But I then didn't pursue LDN because at the time I had so few symptoms, and I kept to the diet. I just kind of felt, and also because my neurologist sort of said that he felt I didn't really need to do anything else.
Aren't you taking LDN, Barbara?
How long? I started at the end of November last year.
Right. And did that do anything immediately for you?
Yes. Well, I sort of more or less immediately had, and that's still going on now, I sleep really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
That's, fantastic. I didn't really have great problems with, sort of suffering from insomnia or anything like that. But I have noticed that I go to sleep really quickly. I sometimes used to have problems going to sleep, but I go to sleep really quickly now, and sometimes I don't even have to get up during the night at all. Some nights I do have to get up once to go to the toilet, but then, like last night I did, but I then go back to sleep more or less straight away, so that's fine. And also before I started LDN, I kind of had these sort of pains sometimes in my shin, sometimes in my the back of my leg, sort of like, it was sort of like sore muscles, like when you've been hiking a lot.
Yes.
The next day your legs sort of feel a bit strange, and you sort of have these pains, and it was like that. The pain was like that, and that has more or less gone since I've been since I've started taking LDN. I do sometimes have them still, these pains in my shins or in my legs, but not nowhere near as often as I used to have them. So those are, I would say, the most obvious improvements. I also find that when I do things like cleaning, which I find sort of physically quite strenuous, I do a lot of walking, I do recover more quickly. I do have to still sit down, and take a rest to kind of recover. But I do think that it's quicker. And then, like last week, I did some cleaning, and then I did sort of sit down for a while and did something else. But then I went for a sort of 20-minute walk, sat in the park, and then walked back for 20 minutes. And it was, I wouldn't say it was difficult, but, it sort of wasn't, I did feel my legs, but I was able to do it,
So your doctor prescribed the LDN for you, is that right?
No. No, I told my doctor about it, and he never heard of it. Here in Germany, it's not really well known, but I told him about it, and I gave him I downloaded all the stuff from the MSRC website for him and gave it to him. and he'd read through it, and then he said, next time I went to see him, he said, well, would you like to do that? And I said, well, yes. And he said, okay, well, let's, the only thing is I'm not quite sure how you'd be able to get it. And I tried to get it. There's an international pharmacy here, and they said they weren't able to, they'd never heard of it either. I mean, they didn't know what I was talking about. Anyway, I got it through EMED. I called Dixon's Pharmacy in Glasgow, and they were very helpful, very nice. And Paula said, oh, you have to get a UK prescription for us to send it to you, but you get it, via EMED, and that's what I did, and it was really easy. I was surprised in the end, once I got onto it, how quick, how easy it was.
Yes.
I filled in the form on the web, and I sent them a letter, and within a couple of days, they sent the prescription to Glasgow, and then within a few days, I had the LDN here.
Good.
So,
did you have any initial side effects when you started?
No. The only thing is, a couple of times I did have vivid dreams, but I mean they were not disturbing, not nightmares or anything like that. That happened a couple of times at the beginning, but I mean I wouldn't really call that a side effect. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It may have happened even if I hadn't been taking LDN. You don't know. So no.
So how would you say your life has been since you started LDN?
I think it has improved in, as I said, I sleep better, and that makes such a difference. I think to anybody, whether they